Hey Postables, you're listening to Deliver Me a Podcast brought to you by Kaycee, Jess, and Cammie. A special thanks to James Jandrish for letting us use music on our show. Now, grab some yoo-hoo, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome back, Postables. Today is a red letter day because joining us is Oliver O'Toole himself, Mr. Eric Mabius.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Let me tell you, everybody is so excited to hear from you. I mean,
oh my word, Twitter blew up.
Oh yeah. Yes. I posted that we'd be talking to both you and Jeff. And I mean, it was like Twitter was exploding. Facebook was exploding. Everyone
that would have
wants
been so nice. I miss Jeff so much. I miss my castmates. It's fun to do this because it makes me feel a little bit closer to the show again, because I think everyone's going through significant cases of withdrawal.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
absolutely.
To say the least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been 2 years since the last movie too. So,
has it really?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh my!
I know, crazy, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So needless to say, we are very excited to get back into the DLO and see more stories about Shane and Oliver and Rita and Norman and everybody.
And drink more yoo-hoo.
Exactly. I'm so excited to read the next script. I'm just dying.
Oh, I bet.
Yes.
Yeah. Martha is very excited about what she's come up with. I just think she's held back till we're holding back showing us the script till we're closer to shooting.
Oh man, to be in that room when you guys get the first look at the script. Wow. I can only imagine.
I know, yes.
My best guess is I spoke to the producers a few weeks ago. I think it looks more like something like late October is my guess.
Okay.
For the next one. Because they have to, they have really strict protocols in place for opening back up production in Canada.
Right.
I have Kevin Fair, who directs most of our movies, and is a dear friend of mine. He's working on other Hallmark movies right now, but they sort of, in the many months that things have been shut down, they've been forced to cast a lot of these Hallmark movies with exclusively Canadian actors, because then they don't have to go through the process.
And the quarantining.
It involves strict quarantine, 2 weeks. For the first 2 weeks you arrive, and you're not allowed, other than going to work, you can't leave your house the entire shoot. And if you do, you get fined $1 million. How amazing is that?
Whoa!
Yeah. It's pretty, and they do check up on you, from what I understand.
Wow. That's intense.
That is very intense. So where does that money go?
Wait, someone should just tell our president that would be the solution to COVID in the United States. Maybe.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yes. And so speaking of quarantine, how have you been doing during this time? It looks like you've been spending some time outdoors, I guess, at your property. I saw Blueberries
I live in the woods. It's the area I grew up in, and I've been appreciating it more. I'm not just saying this, but I appreciate it more every day I wake up, because the nearest neighbor is an old cemetery, with Civil War veterans buried there. That's the closest neighbor I have. I open my door and there's a waterfall and a raging brook right outside the door, and I've just been to have this that you can sort of pretend for hours and hours during your day that the world isn't in this upside down place. It's really wonderful and peaceful, and I've spent more time with my sons over the last several months than I have, I think, the most uninterrupted time I've ever had with my children, which is such a blessing and such a gift. So, I can't complain. I really can't. It's, I'm getting to the to-do list that's a mile long and that's been building for years since I moved in this place. It's a great sense of accomplishment, and Yeah, I can't complain. Everyone's healthy and happy in my family, and that's worth everything.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
That's awesome.
That is wonderful. You live in Massachusetts, is that correct?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. A wood in Massachusetts, I can only imagine.
Yeah, for a bunch of Southern girls here.
Yeah. Well, two of us.
The Berkshire Mountains. It's really kind of a progressively minded, peaceful part of Massachusetts. But most people just know of Boston, but in Western Mass, there's a lot of there's Tanglewood, and there's a lot of artist communities and dance troops, and there's been a great tradition here in Western Mass. A lot of famous musicians live in this part of the state, and it's just the winters are beautiful and the summers are very green and hot, but not too hot.
Yeah,
the 80s most of the time.
Wow. Yeah. Kaycee, can you imagine 80s?
I know. It's like 100 degrees down here and 100% humidity.
Yep.
and it goes down to like the low 60s at night. It's great sleeping weather.
Oh, gosh. We're so jealous.
That's winter.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did, when I was a kid, we would, I used to live in Connecticut, and we would ski up in the Berkshires. So, fond childhood memories up there.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. It's my connection to
the other thing, having close ski mountains is really nice. Because in the summer you can go biking and hiking, and in the winter you can go skiing. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's segue back into some of your more recent non-Signed, Sealed, Delivered projects. We're going to save Signed, Sealed, Delivered for the very end, because that's what we know everybody has been waiting and dying for. And you've done a couple of Hallmark Christmas movies since Signed, Sealed, Delivered. Welcome to Christmas, and it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
Several years ago, I reconnected with an old friend. I did, I think it was a Lifetime movie many years ago with him. His name is Jim Head. And we sort of stayed in touch a bit, and we became friends from working on this movie. It was Sarah Paulson and me. Can't remember the name of the movie, but it was a Christmas. I have to get back in time for our wedding. It was a cute, neat movie, but we bumped into each other at the TCA event probably 4 years ago. I want to say 4 or 5, and we decided we want to work together again. So we set to pitching the executives. We usually pitch once a year, and we will pitch romantic comedies and Christmas movies, sort of several examples of each. Some are based on existing book series that are successful. The Welcome to Christmas was a series of books about a town named Christmas in Colorado. I don't know if we're going to do another one of those yet, but so it's really wonderful because I get to control certain aspects of production, and I get to have creative input, and help shape the script. And being a part of other aspects of production is really rewarding to me, and to work that closely with someone like Jim, and to get along so well after the process, and to even be closer from it is a rare thing. He's probably one of the most talented producers I've ever worked with, and it's really fun. I had a lot of fun with this last Christmas movie that we did with Trisha Helfer. She's such a pro and such a sweet, talented, kind human being, and it was nice. I mean, we could get right to it. It was so nice to be able to, before it became the hot button topic. It was something that's always been important to me, to not have a movie with just a bunch of white people standing around talking. It was nice to have to cast friends in the movie that happened to not, all be white, and to really fill out the film and have it be more representative, I think, of a cross section of life in the States. So I just love working with Jim, and I love working for Hallmark because it's, the experiences continue to become more and more rich over time. I really do.
Are you starting to prefer the behind the camera work, or do you still prefer being an actor in them?
I think the combination. I'm in a really kind of sweet spot right now where
yeah, definitely.
I sort of get, Jim does I'm not going to lie, Jim does all the heavy lifting when it comes to, a lot of the boring production meetings that one has to sit through, and location scouting, a lot of that stuff. I'll sit in on some of the meetings, but certainly the casting ones are important, and the calls that we have regarding the script notes with the writer and the executives and Jim. I think, and I can detach myself to a great extent when the cameras start rolling, and I just get to vacation as the character and sort of let go of the wheel. It's good to be able to compartmentalize in that way. And I think the results have been pretty good. It's always our goal to make a movie that, we know that you have to check off certain boxes, but to make a project that is substantial, and it's not sappy, and it's not too convenient, and just it feels real, even though we're tuning in to watch a Hallmark movie for escapism. I think there's, for it to feel a little more genuine, I think is an important goal. Not to get too scholarly about it.
I know. It's good for us to get scholarly about things, especially during the summertime, right? So here is the burning Hallmark question that doesn't involve SSD. Are we going to get a How to Fall in Love sequel?
I love that movie.
I love that movie. That's the first project that I personally ever saw you in. And I was like, wow, this guy's really good.
Me as well. It's a fan favorite for sure.
It's a huge fan favorite. Yeah, that was the first one I saw you in. And then I happened to be channel surfing, and I came across From Paris with Love. I'm like, oh, it's the guy from How to Fall in Love. Oh, this is really good. And the rest is history. So yeah, that's a burning question.
I know that Bart is interested in writing a sequel. I think the possibility exists. I think if the demand is there, then it's entirely possible.
All right, we got to start a Twitter campaign.
Here we go.
I know the movie performed well, and I had a really great experience working with Brooke. She's a lot of fun and so funny, and I think I tweeted that last week that I bumped into her at one of the TCAs, and we had a nice chat. And yeah, she's really sweet. And
that's
talented.
Nice.
Like in any job, if you find someone you click with, it's just so nice, and so I won't say rare, but it's when you come across someone that going to work doesn't feel like going to work with, it's pretty wonderful.
Right. Well, lots of postables have lots of ideas.
Yes, they do.
Sequel.
All right. So moving outside of Hallmark for a second, your most recent non-Hallmark movie was Inside Game. And so we're not huge sports people here, so we weren't aware of the NBA betting scandal. And so we were interested, first, are you a big sports fan, and did you know about the scandal prior to getting the role?
I was aware. I think everyone, at least kind of like a tertiary way, they were aware of the referee. I mean, honestly, the NBA doesn't want any negative press. Takes away. It's a massive, multi-billion-dollar a year moneymaker. So anything that questions the validity of what they're doing. I mean, the games are shaped just like any referee can shape a game according to favorites. I think that Tim Donaghy was a very good ref, and he was also very good at covering up his preferences. But they all, I mean, it exposed a bit of the nasty underbelly. All these referees have favorites. I was not a huge sports fan. I mean, I love going to live sports, but growing up, I lived in the country, and we were out in the woods all day long. You know, we come back for meals and we just play. We only got like 1.5 TV stations anyway with rabbit ears, so we didn't have a lot of those kinds of distractions. I would listen to sports. I remember I have fond memories growing up, you know, my dad in his workshop, and we'd have the AM radio on listening to sports like that. You know, it leaves a lot to the imagination. And that's sort of, I love like summer afternoons listening to a Red Sox game on the AM station, something like that. But so no, and there were quite a few humbling moments. The learning curve was so steep. I trying to look like I knew what I was doing. I had a real NBA coach, a retired NBA coach, and an NCAA referee coach me on the basics.
Okay.
And I had to do a lot. You know, there's scenes where I had to make 3 free throws in a row, answer the phone, have a phone conversation all in one take, and then make another shot and then miss that one. And we had to do it in one take. So, and there's like, 50 crew members, 60 crew members standing around watching, waiting for me to do this, because we have to do it as many times as it takes to get that done. And scenes where I had to look like I was, the character I played would bet and played a lot of golf. So I had to look like I knew how to golf, and I never played golf in my entire life.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So you show up on set, and because it was a small budget movie, you don't have time to get coached and become expert in these activities. So I'd show up, and this crew standing around at like 7 a.m. on a golf course, and I get a golf pro standing there and teaching me how to do everything in 5 minutes. It was humiliating and humbling, but I pulled it off. I'm a great pretender when I need to be.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
Yes. And
That's
reffing,
literally your job description. So.
Yes. And reffing in real life is hard. I mean, I've never reffed, but I cheered in high school, and I remember the refs were just as like action packed as the players, because you're running up and down and you have to make sure you're watching everything. I mean, I can't imagine having to pretend to be a ref, but
yeah, no, it's not easy. Those guys are in great shape too. I mean, running up and down. I mean, I'm sure they would, cover 10 miles in the course of the game, just going back and forth.
Right. So much.
And it was sort of embodying this time in Tim Donaghy's life where things were spiraling out of control. Randall, who's a friend of mine who wrote and directed the script, he wanted me to, put on 50 pounds and really sort of do a lot of this stuff. And we didn't have the luxury of doing that. My doctor also told me that wouldn't be a good idea.
Yeah.
So a lot of challenges. I'm pretty proud of the film. Scott Wolf was a lot of fun to work with. And they were you're not going to believe this, they were just about to open, I think they had a great distribution deal with Reels, the cable channel, Reels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, no, Stars. I'm sorry. I think it was Stars.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've forgotten. Stars, sorry. They were about to release the movie, and there were 3 friends in the story.
Mm-hmm.
And the wife of the character named Baba, James Batista, put an injunction against our film and sued them for defamation of character. So.
Oh. Ooh. That's
yeah.
I think it's on Amazon Prime. So if anybody wants to watch it, I believe you can rent it there too.
It's fun, but I'm not gonna lie, it's definitely R-rated. It's not Hallmark.
It's not Hallmark.
Duly noted.
Don't watch with your kids.
Yes.
They're young.
Yep. Do not show your children this movie.
We know you love Oliver. We want to keep it that way. So.
Well, Jess and I just watched The Wrong Planner that, stars Kristen and Crystal in it. And we were like, oh, we're not in Hallmark anymore. But it's so fun.
Oh, really? What is it about? What channel was it on?
It is a Lifetime movie.
the movie that starred Kristen and Crystal, and Kristen was a homicidal maniac. Yeah.
Let me guess. It's someone being stalked by a murderer.
There you go.
Yes.
Basically.
Someone's ex, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And Kristen was the crazy one in this movie.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's a fun one. It's a fun one to watch them in.
I'll have to watch that. Funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not Hallmark, but I always like seeing actors in things that are different from them. So I'm looking forward to seeing Inside Game. I'll probably try and get my husband to watch it with me.
Yeah, he'll actually. I think he'll like it.
Yeah,
I really do.
Yeah. All right. So the moment that all the postables have been waiting for.
It's Yoo-hoo time!
Signed, sealed, delivered questions. So
if I going through stomach problems, I'd have a little bite of the Yoo-hoo candy bar in honor. But I'm gonna
I'll sip it for you. I'll sip a box of Yoo-hoo for you.
Great. Yeah.
There you go.
The cup of tea I have right now. Probably.
There you go.
Is it Darjeeling?
It's funny you mentioned actors doing other movies, because Martha, whom we all keep in touch with, she's happy when, we're working on other projects, but by her own admission, she's a little bit jealous because she really sees us as our characters, because the characters live in her mind constantly.
Yeah.
Because she's playing
Sure.
out, future scenarios and scripts and choices for the characters. So she holds those roles very dear. So she always associates us only with those characters. So.
We do a little bit of that ourselves.
I don't know if she would say it outright, but it feels a little bit like our characters are cheating on our characters when we play other ones. Or the actor or something,
It's tantamount to betrayal.
Exactly. We're on loan out temporarily.
So, in that light, are you drinking Darjeeling tea?
I am
are you
drinking
keeping?
chai. No, I'm not a big Darjeeling fan.
Oh no!
I'm a tried and true chai drinker. And PG Tips. I have a very special postable that sends me from England. She sends me PG Tips Gold. I drink that as well, which is a kind of the top of the line British tea. PG Tips Gold. What do they use? They use Assam. It's a blend. Assam tea.
Wow.
It's 3 blends of black tea. Yeah, and I drink that.
Well,
Yeah,
maybe Martha
I
will
drink
forgive
tea.
you.
Perhaps.
All right. Well, to start us off on the SSD train, first of all, what drew you to the role of Oliver?
What drew me to the role? I'll never forget it, because I was going to China to start a movie when my manager sent me the script. It was called Dead Letters. It was originally called Dead Letters. I'm pretty sure it was called Dead Letters, but that wasn't a title that would stick for Hallmark, obviously. I was flying to go do a movie in China, and I don't sleep well on airplanes, so I read the script, and by the time I had landed, I had already emailed my manager that I would love to move forward with the process. I'd done a few Hallmark things over the years. I did a Hall of Fame movie when I was in my mid-20s. That was so much fun. Of course, I grew up watching Hallmark Hall of Fame movies. They were like the sort of gold standard for movies of the week back in the 70s and 80s.
Mm-hmm.
But I did this movie with Patty Duke and Lolita Davidovich, and I loved it. There were some supporting roles played by Jennifer Garner and Sam Trammell and Justin Chambers. They had on the supporting roles in that, which was very funny. I had a conversation once I landed in China in my hotel room with Martha, because we were going to move forward, we wanted to sort of get to know one another. She was on a cruise with her family at the time, and it was the middle of the night. So the story that I love hearing her tell, she was in the closet in her cabin on the cruise ship in the middle of the night having a conversation with me while I was in my hotel. It was like 2 a.m. or something. And that was her. And Martha has quite a bit of history in Western Mass as well. She went to Williams College and is a trustee as well. So there were a lot of common points and people that we had worked with in common. We clicked instantly, and there was a sensibility that I understood about this character, about Oliver, who was loosely based upon strong elements of Oliver, based upon Martha's grandfather. And that's the thing about Martha's writing in general that I think imbues it with real meaning, because she'll ask us questions about our lives, each of us at different times, when she's trying to crack a story element or intertwine real life with our characters, so that it feels even more authentic, or it's something that serves the story itself. Mm-hmm. But we become more committed, I think, as a result, because there's an intertwining element of truth, real truth, with each of these characters. No family is without complexity, and I think doing that really serves the characters and the story in a pretty immense way. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily lifted exactly from real experience, but there's a way in which she'll find something out and then change it a little bit, and still include that element in a movie or a character quality.
Right.
Yeah. So we interviewed Crystal a while back, and she mentioned how Martha incorporated a bit of herself into each of the postables. So like you said, Oliver is based off her grandfather. Did that affect the crafting of the character of Oliver in any way for you?
It did. It did, because I know how much he meant to her. And there was something also about that era that I understood what she was borrowing. There are certain elements like it made me think about my grandfather, and mm-hmm. It made me think about that era of people, the sort of era of World War II and the kind of intense strain the country and the world were going through, and the Great Depression, and people having to pull together and persevere and watch out for one another and take care of one another in a way that they hadn't had to. The world was, hurtling itself into modern day, but there were still elements that still felt very old world. It's kind of like the collision of those things going on, and there's something about the character of Oliver. He has one foot sort of in different worlds, and why Shane being introduced into his life was sort of pulling him, rightly into the 21st century, but also the sharing that goes on between certainly all the postables, but in different ways. There's something about that wonderful tension between the old and the new worlds, that there are elements of Oliver that Shane ends up absorbing, and vice versa, and they sort of become more fully human in one another's presence. And Martha has a way of illuminating that I don't think with such skill, in a way that I don't really see done very often. I mean, Martha is truly one of the great writers that I've had a chance to work with.
Yeah, she's incredible.
That sentiment has been echoed.
we talk about growing up, being raised on certain types of shows that I think it's to a lesser extent nowadays, because there's so much content, which is not to say there are like great television constantly being made, but there were less touchstones. But being raised on a show like MASH, there was something, I think MASH is still probably one of the greatest shows of all time because of it. The grayness of what it means to be a human being and times of war and how we have to care for one another. And I get very passionate when I start talking about Martha's writing, because it harkens back to a kind of TV that doesn't happen as much anymore. Shows like St. Elsewhere.
We call her the Master Weaver around here on the podcast because of her uncanny ability to weave the storylines together and weave little lines that come to mean so much. Yeah, we are very big fans of her writing over here.
I don't mean to say this in a manipulative way, but she plays our heartstrings like a violin. She really does.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
we'll be sitting a read through, and each one of us, when we know Kristen cries constantly during our read, that's kind of the thing. And Jeff can be deadpan and he keeps his cards close. That's part of the thing I love about his deadpan humor. His comic timing is impeccable, but there'll be like once a read through where he can't stop himself from crying and he gets so frustrated. But the funniest thing is to watch him try and not cry.
Oh,
it's pretty amazing. It really is.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's infectious.
Well, this is asking you to look back at a very broad spectrum, but do you have a favorite episode from the series and a favorite movie from the canon?
I think there was something about, again, those great movies and TV shows that were made. One of the movies that I watched as a boy was Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Ah, yes.
And when Martha wrote that scene where we have to go in front of the Senate House subcommittee to essentially beg for that soldier's life, it was, I get choked up just thinking about it. But that's probably the single most, certainly my favorite movie, but probably my single favorite scene of the 30 whatever hours of the show we've created. It has everything, Yeah. And I could have acted in that scene for a week straight without tiring of it.
Well, we all love that scene too.
So everybody Go ahead.
This is making me want to get back to work.
Oh, good!
Yay! So everybody loves the dance at the Dead Letter Office in the Masterpiece. And I just have to ask, how long did it take you to learn that dance, and who's the better dancer, you or Kristen?
Oh boy, here we go.
It was never a competition. You're working, you have to work in concert with one another. I don't think either one of us are very good, and I think Kristen would do that as well. When it comes to ballroom dancing, I'm really bad because it's like trying to teach someone an instrument. You have to feel the thing before any of it makes sense. Mm-hmm. And there was always sort of never enough time to have it become second nature. But I think we did, again, a pretty good job of pretending.
You guys did an amazing job.
Very good job.
I was swooning, falling over on the floor during that dance.
Oh, yes.
I'm so glad. Yeah. We worked pretty hard at it. Mm-hmm. But it was something nobody likes to, that's the thing about being an actor. Nobody likes to be humiliated as an adult. I think it gets harder, and we don't put ourselves in positions to fall on our faces, literally and figuratively. very often as we get older, but that is something that's still, it's not painful because, for the obvious reasons, but it's painful because as you learn the dance, you start to realize how little you know. The more you learn, you don't. You know, it's humbling.
Well, it was honestly fantastic. I mean, it's one of my favorite scenes for sure.
Maybe I shouldn't admit my insecurities, but that is the truth. I don't think, like I said, I don't think either one of us are terribly good ballroom dancers, but I am not going to say that I'm better at it than Kristen. Definitely not.
You have to work with that woman.
Well, no. I can't say it's not true, you know?
No, right. Yeah. I'm just teasing.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a little bit of a controversial question among the three of us at Deliver Me a Podcast. The treasure box. Treasure box, yes. When Oliver and Shane were stuck in the bank vault, was Oliver flirting with Shane? It's a very big controversy over here with the three of us.
And on Twitter.
And on Twitter. Everyone has an opinion.
It's become quite the conversation. So what? And I know that you've answered it kind of, but is there an answer that you have about whether or not Oliver was flirting with Shane, or did he start to flirt and then stop himself? What's your opinion as the man who played him?
I think my job would, if we were to put ourselves in their position, in that being stuck in a vault, being afraid of losing air, you know, it's one of those, the plane is about to crash. What is the last thing you want to do before you die?
Uh-huh.
And so we are in unreal circumstances to begin with. I think it was sort of like time within time. If you stretched out those hours they were in there, that was going to be the end of their lives. So the short answer would be not exactly, but I think that he was able to be candid and to be emotionally available in ways that he hadn't been able to, because that was, you know, he wanted to admit that there was something going on inside him, and she was stirring these feelings up in him before he died. I don't think it was a classic case of was he, or question of was he flirting or not. I think he felt incredibly responsibly towards her, and it's a very complex answer because it was a complex situation.
Right.
And I think he saw the possibility of what could be, and that's what was so bittersweet and painful about them being in those positions. You know, valuing every breath that you have before it's taken away, and that, you know, he didn't want to waste time anymore, standing on ceremony and allowing himself to be a victim in the loveless marriage he had been in, and that he was deluding himself to a great extent, and that it was time to do some growing up and moving on, which is, you know, it was the sort of metaphor for his life. You know, that was the near-death experience that opened up a whole new emotional avenue for him.
Yeah. And it was hard too for him because he was, you know, his wife was not present. And so writing the letter to Holly, and then the woman that he is falling in love with is standing right there, and they're about to possibly die together in the bank vault with Jason.
With the sorry excuse for a human being at the point.
So along the same lines, we have another, I don't know if I would call it a controversial fan question, but people that have differing opinions, it's more open-ended. So we recently recapped Truth Be Told, and Oliver's really kind of starting to explore, his relationship with Shane, and it's the scene where they're on her porch, and
it's the what the Sam Hill scene.
Yeah, yes. And when he tells her that it matters, that she has no plans to leave. And then he says, do you know what I want to do right now? And then they're interrupted by a phone call. So there's some debate about what he wanted to do right then. What do you think that Oliver wanted to do?
Act on his impulses for a change?
And the impulse was?
He wanted to grab her and kiss her.
I do it!
Yeah. He wanted to be very on Oliver-like for a brief moment in time.
Yeah.
And it's a burden. It's a burden to be so wound up so tight all the time.
Mm-hmm.
If he wanted to let go and tell her all the things that he felt for her, and take her in his arms and not let go.
Yeah. That's so sweet.
So speaking of which, this is a very slow burn relationship. When do you think that there is a single moment when Oliver knew that he was in love with Shane, when it kind of clicked? Because there had been this slow falling, and then do you think that there was a moment, or do you think it kind of creeped up on him?
And Kristen had mentioned too that in Something Good, so that's the episode with the guitar player who had lost his memory, that's when she knew that Shane was in love with Oliver.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there was a single moment. I think as is consistent with Oliver, that this is kind of a tide that slowly washes over him, and the strength of his feelings, if feathered in a little more every day, just being around her. But for me, the Christmas episode, that the scene in the chapel,
yes,
when they're sitting there on the, I think that was an intense, deepening. If there was a single scene, that would be it. If I had, if I was forced to put my finger on it, that would be a moment in which he realized how much she means to him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's one of those scenes that's so pitch perfect. The writing was just impeccable. So it was, Martha taps into something that's, a well that you, like a vein of something that you hit, and it just comes out. And that's one of those scenes where it's all pure emotion.
Yeah.
And love and appreciation, and the feelings of feeling blessed by the person in front of us, just by their presence.
Yeah. And the Christmas movie is one of our favorites, and it's the speech that Oliver gives Shane at the very end about how
we had fun talking about that.
Yeah, we loved that speech so much.
Which speech? Say that again.
The one when so Shane, or Oliver, gives Shane the letter from God and says, "This is for you." And then Oliver gives the speech about how you have a family. Rita's your little sister. Norman, you have a little brother and you have me, an odd fellow who loves books and words.
He failed to, Oliver fails to define himself as her brother at that point. So that, yeah.
I guess Mark better write some more movies.
Yes. Yes. So we do have one special request. We have an author friend. Her name is Rachel Fordham, and she wrote a book called Yours Truly, Thomas, which part of it is set in the Dead Letter Office in the 1800s. And we asked her if, it's actually a very delightful little book, and we just enjoyed reading it and talking about it with her so much. And she is a huge Signed, Sealed, Delivered fan. She actually discovered it after she'd written that book. And her kids also, they love Signed, Sealed, Delivered. They had a whole party for To the Altar where they had like little, I think, did they say Rita's cookies?
Yeah, they had Rita's cookies.
They had Rita's cookies and Yoo-Hoo and all of this. And her kids have a couple of questions they would like to ask you.
Yes, certainly.
Her son Gideon, who's 6 years old, says, "You're the best, Oliver. How many Yoo-Hoos have you had to drink?"
I've had to drink a total of 2 sips of Yoo-Hoo in all of the movies that we've done.
Oh.
Because in actuality, chocolate almond milk.
Okay.
I thought, let's give it a try, and then I thought, I would probably have developed diabetes if I had to drink this.
Drink all of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then her daughter Adele, who's 10 years old, asks if you like to hike in real life.
I love to hike in real life. Yeah, I jog in the mountains probably 3 or 4 days a week, and I can do that right out my front door, which is so great. We have hills and small mountains all over nearby.
Yeah.
Man, your lungs must be in great shape.
Well, I got to do something to combat the COVID-19 that everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for answering those questions. They will be so delighted to hear from you. All right. Before we wrap it up, we have a fun little segment here that we played a little game with Crystal, and we wanted to compare answers with you. And they're just very quick, fun, fast questions. It's kind of like Teen Beat from, the late 80s, early 90s.
Postable style.
The postable style. All right. So who is most likely to play a prank on set?
Jeff.
Yep.
Not surprising.
That concurs with what we got.
All right. Who is
he's so smart, and his kind of humor I love. The first time I met him, I felt like I'd known him already, and there's just something about his delivery and his timing and how dry and deadpan his delivery is. Kevin, the director, Kevin Fair, and Jeff and I will get going on set and laugh till our sides hurt. Jeff does this impersonation of Arnold Schwarzenegger that is not to be believed. And Kevin will Kevin will act like he's an interviewer and just lob him these easy setup questions to guide Jeff while he starts to riff as Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's hilarious.
Who is most likely to burst out into random song in between takes?
That would have to be me.
That's what Crystal said.
That's what Crystal said.
Yeah, I mean, she's a good deal younger than I, but I still break into Crystal Blue persuasion from time to time. Yeah, it's something I've always done. It's almost like a mnemonic device. Someone will say something, a word or a phrase, and then it'll make me think of a song, and I'll randomly burst out.
That's what we do in my family. We just talk to each other in song lyrics. that and movie lines. So
that's fun. So great. Now that I think about it, I'm passing that on to my sons as well. They do that as well.
So who is most likely to break out into a little dance between takes?
Probably, I don't know, maybe Crystal, but that's partially because she had to do the goofy, awkward dance. And you would have to rehearse all the ways in which she would do an awkward, goofy dance. So I don't know if it's consistently something she would do. But Jeff also, I mean, he'll do a step or two if he's feeling particularly good. If his beloved Toronto Blue Jays won a game, or one of his NHL teams won, he'll break into a step or two. Definitely.
Who is most likely to be found at craft services between takes?
Jeff. Definitely, Jeff.
Okay.
I like watching him go over. It's like the process. Not that he eats a lot at all, but he likes to sort of go over and survey the options at craft service.
Gotta be prepared.
Enjoyable distraction for him.
Who is most likely to laugh at an inappropriate time during filming?
Or cry?
Kristen.
Oh yeah. Yep. You know how when we have intense emotional responses, sometimes people burst into laughter when they, something very intense is going on. That's definitely sometimes or plan of action, I think.
So, who is most likely to contribute the most money to the swear jar? Because on Twitter someone asked if this was a functioning swear jar, and so we know
it's really
we know that
it's really part of the same. It's part of the that's a two-part really part of the same question you just asked, because she'll laugh at inappropriate times. The laugh usually comes after a swear that left out of her mouth when she screws a line up. And sometimes Martha's on set, but a lot of times she's not. But when Martha's not around, it's like Mom's not around, the swearing happens more often. But sometimes Kristen, because it happens, it erupts randomly, she'll forget that Martha's on set, and Mom will catch her in the act. Because then she'll drop a line and then swear, and then swear on top of the swear because she realized that she swore. And then
she said the exact same thing.
Yeah,
that's what Crystal said.
She's spiraling down into the pit of swearingness. Yeah.
So who has the best memory?
Best memory in terms of lines?
Sure.
Best memory. Well, I think early on in the show, Martha was trying to test my limits. Because there were some doozies of speeches that I had to memorize. I probably had the heaviest lifting the first season of the show. I might have annoyed a few people with trying to be very good at knowing my lines. Probably me.
Okay.
No way to answer that without sounding self-centered, but I had a lot of heavy lifting to do that first season, and I think I was able to pull it off. I was trying to make Martha proud, so I was a bit obsessive about knowing my words inside out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was a great mental exercise for all those speeches that you're going to give.
Exactly. What? So how did the others answer that?
Well, we've only done Crystal, and I want to say she might have said you. Oh, it's been a few months.
Yeah, we'd have to go back and check.
Yeah.
Curious. Again, there's no way to answer that without sounding, oh, yes, no, I have great memory, I'm great at this, and I'm great at that. Doesn't come easily, but it comes.
So who is the best baker or cook?
Best baker or cook?
Nobody brings treats to set.
Well, Kristen is expert at ordering from because of her diet restrictions.
Yes.
Yes, that is entered the lexicon of infamous stories on set. Baker, I would guess Crystal. She had when we first started the show, she owned a bar restaurant.
Oh,
in
yeah.
We didn't know that.
Yeah, I think, because I think on her mom's side of her family, she's got, I think, very skillful Asian cooks on one side of her family. So I think she has some skills in the kitchen, but I don't know for sure.
Okay.
All right.
I'm pretty good at the basics, but I'm definitely not going to say it's me.
Well, that blueberry pancake or whatever it was you posted on Twitter looked delicious. So.
Oh, the banana bread, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Chocolate, banana, blueberry. Oh, it's just so amazing.
Chocolate banana blueberry. Oh my gosh, my mouth is starting to water.
Yeah, I have these huge high bush blueberry trees in the back. Some of them, I built the netting around them because the birds were starting to take the berries before they were ripening, and the deer were eating the leaves. And so I built these huge 10-foot high cages and wrapped bird netting over them. So I'm going to have more blueberries this year than in years past because there's less collateral damage.
Nice.
But that was such a pain, but I'm so glad I did it because the blueberries are as big as grapes. I posted a photo, I think, yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
They're so big.
Yeah.
They're just ending. But in pancakes and bread and making blueberry cobbler and blueberry compote to put on top of dessert with ice cream, it's just, it's so amazing. And I'm very proud of these bushes. You could tell they're probably 10, 15 years old. But what's crazy is how the sun hits them up in the upper field. So they don't all come ripe at once. The higher bushes get more sun, so it's like getting to go to the grocery store every day.
Mm-hmm.
So that another 3/4 or a pint are coming ripe. So it's a gift that keeps on giving, and will, I think, for the next month or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's pretty neat. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And another banner year for wild raspberries too. I don't know why. Something about the periods of rain and periods of dry spells we've been having is really it's ripening the fruit this year.
Mm-hmm.
Not to get I could talk about this. This is the most amount of time I've ever spent at home because life is usually pretty much since I moved to Los Angeles in 1996. My life has been being on set with periods of real life mixed in, real life being, at home and family time.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's the complete, converse because all work has stopped. And now it's like this great fantasy world that I've always hoped for, to have a lot of time at home.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a feeling that's going to come to a close as work starts ramping up again.
All right. We have one last question before we wrap up here. So if the four of you, so you being Jeff, Kristen, Crystal, and yourself, were trapped on an island, what would each of you be doing until you were rescued?
Each of us be doing.
So if you need a little help, Crystal said that she would probably be arguing with people on Twitter.
Instead of asking for them to come and rescue you.
She said that Kristen would be probably writing her plea to get rescued. And she said that you would be hauling driftwood.
That's exactly right. I didn't know we had the option, would have access to technology. Yeah, I thought you meant what would each person's job be if they were castaways on an island.
Well, no, let's do that. Let's do that.
Like Gilligan.
Yeah. So
Jeff would be probably trying to fish and frustrated with not catching anything. I would be trying to build some kind of dwelling.
Yep.
And there's no way to answer this without sounding like a jerk. And the ladies would be working on their tans, probably. I don't know.
That's funny. I mean, it's kind of fun to do. I mean, you just lay out and chat with your girlfriends and
exactly
have a drink, you know?
I mean, those two women have so much fun together. You just can't even, it's a sight to behold. It really is.
So we've been told.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was that was so much fun and such great answers. We can't wait to hear what Jeff has to say as well. And we'll
I want to hear his response to some of these.
And we'll have to get Kristen. We didn't have these questions when we talked to Kristen because we thought of it afterwards, after the fact. But maybe we can get her back on and compare answers later.
Can't wait to hear Jeff's interview. That's going to be fun.
Oh,
yes.
Thank you so much for your time. That was fun.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any upcoming things we should be looking out for, or anything that you can tease that we can, help promote for you or with you?
Not right now. We are in development on the romantic comedy. From our last, I pitched in the spring, and Hallmark really liked this romantic comedy called An Undercover Romance.
Ooh.
That'll be that's winter, if all goes well. But it's really a wonderful story about. Well, I don't want to give it away yet. Yeah, I don't want to give much away, but it's really good. I'm so excited to make this one. It was we pitched, I think, 5 or 6 different story ideas. Some of them Christmas and some romantic comedy, but this was my favorite of all of them. I'm so glad they chose this one.
All right. Well, you got the scoop here, Postables.
Yay!
Be watching out for that. That's very exciting. Well, Eric, thank you so much for coming on. It was just such an honor to talk to you today and just get to know you a little bit better and hear about all the fun little behind the scenes stories of Signed, Sealed, Delivered. So thank you so much. And we can't wait to see you back on our screens again.
Thank you. That was so much fun.
Well, if we can help time pass a little quicker in this time period, then we are happy to do it.
Absolutely. Do you have any social media that you want to shout out?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I do enough where I don't, I'm definitely not a social media obsessed person. It's fun to be able to keep in touch with fans of the show via Twitter, and I finally there were several pretend me's on Instagram, so I fought back and got my own identity, but I haven't really posted anything yet. That's going to happen in the coming weeks. It's just I'm full-time dad and I wanted to document, I'm building a bridge over the brook right now. Started to drop some hemlock trees and build a bridge, and I wanted to sort of do that as my first post, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, that sounds like a great project.
Yes. So in the meantime, Postables, you can just follow Eric on Twitter. Stay tuned for, pictures of the bridge across the brook. So we look forward to that.
Please stay safe. Thank you so much.
Yes.
You
too. Thank you.
Take care.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Deliver Me a Podcast. If you want to know what's going to happen next week, be sure you are following us on Twitter at DeliverMeAPod and on Instagram at DeliverMeAPodcast. We also have a merch store where you can buy tons of Postables things for you and your friends. We'll see you next week.